My name is Jürgen Sußner. I'm a lead cloud platform engineer is my current title. And I think about cloud as make the right thing and the easy thing, the same thing. I work for DATEV and I have a question. Who knows about DATEV? At least quite a lot. Who knows about DATEV as a software company? Oh, a bit fewer. Let me tell you why DATEV is a software company. DATEV is founded in the 1960s as a IT service provider for tax consultants, auditors, and lawyers. It's actually one of the largest software companies in Europe, but you can't buy DATEV software in stores. You can only buy it through your tax consultants. We have about 7 representative companies across Europe. We have about 23 offices in Germany, and we have about 500,000 customers and about more than 8,500, almost 8,500 employees, and it's a billion-dollar company, quite a huge company. Also, it's not that often in the media. And I would talk about what actually is cloud. I know there are a lot of technical explanations, but I want to talk about what we think cloud is. And if you think of the technical parts, I think this one is cloud. Oh, it's a bit too fast, this one. Actually, it's the oldest version of the cloud, and was opened shortly after founding DATEV by the Federal Finance Minister Franz Josef Strauß, which is quite a long time ago. And it was one of the biggest data centers in the former times. It contained 4 rented IBM mainframes with a capacity of 320 kilobyte. A lot of storage for former times. If you think of that, DATEV was the first cloud provider ever. Well, cloud actually also means networking and ubiquitous access to resources over the internet. And to say, okay, well, we did that. We did it a long time ago, starting remote data transmissions. DATEV built up its own ISDN network. So we do data transmission for almost 40 years. Well, leaving the fun aside, what we have nowadays is 4 high available data centers with about 4,500 square meters in size, private fiber optic routes. You won't notice any delay communicating between these locations within Nuremberg. We still have IBM mainframes, but we also have a lot of Windows and Linux virtual servers. And maybe we have our own print and logistics center. And that's why somebody, when I talk to them what DATEV is, they say DATEV is a paper manufacturer because it has its logo printed on every paper I receive every month. Yeah, that's one part of the game. And at least people who see this logo are 14 million per month. So we do payroll processing, about 14 million German employees a month. We do sales tax declarations and all the things about tax. And one of the interesting things is we stored 2.24 billion documents for almost 800,000 German companies on our data center, and these amount growth by about 60 million documents a month, usually around the 10th, where sales tax declarations have to be done. And if you think of that, it's a big, huge amount of data, and it has to be protected well. That's why we have severe access policies. You can only access DATEV's office rooms if you're a DATEV employee or if you are alongside with a DATEV employee. Otherwise, you're not allowed to move in the building. But is this cloud? Sure, we have storage, data, and everything we need. But that's not really cloud, it's just hardware. You still have these, I call it separation between dev and ops. You have the devs developing software for the cloud, which is a complex task. And in the former times, it was handed over to the ops department, and they operate the software. They know about switches, they know about application servers, firewalls, and it's also a complex task. So each group focused on their own, and you have a clash between them. You have different priorities, you have different wording, different kind of language if you want to, and if they talk to each other, they won't understand each other. Works also between cloud developers and mainframe developers. They don't have the same language either. And sometimes this separation is also called wall of confusion, and if you look at Google Earth, you will find that wall like here in the middle, which is actually the parking lot. You have the devs working here in that new built IT campus, and you have the data center lying here in the older building. And I myself have worked on both sides of this wall for a really long time. If you tell it in dog years, it's actually 42, not the 56 this morning. But I myself have been a developer, and I always had the problem. I developed software, and I gave it to the other department. They operated for me, but how can I explain the admin what I really need from them? Because admins usually haven't been developers. They have no clue of developing software. They're admins of administering systems and running these software. And I also didn't know what is my app doing in production. I was lacking visibility in the former times. If I'm lucky, I send a mail to the admin, hey, give me logs. I put CC my boss on it, and have my boss approved this mail. And if I'm lucky, I got the logs earlier than the boss approved my mail, because the admins already knew me. But that wasn't the way I wanted to see what's happening in production. And actually, almost I had no idea what the admin really configured, if that what I requested was really what happened there. Then I switched to the other side of the house, being a Java Enterprise admin for about another 5 years. And I was always the bottleneck. There was so much to do, so little time, so many developers to work for. And if I find the time to look at these applications, I figured out, for example, performance issues. Who cares about these issues? Sure, I can tackle them with more hardware, but that's not the way it should work. But it's not on the developer's performance priority to care about performance issues. They care about features. And sometimes even I, as a former developer, don't understand what the developer wants from me. My application isn't working. Which one? The one I'm looking at the browser. That was actually a conversation I had with a developer a long time ago. That's why I started as a cloud platform engineer, working with cloud technology, and the mission was creating an environment where this friction does no longer exist, so developers can easily deliver value for their customers. And nowadays, we know what this technology-wise means. We talk about Kubernetes as a technology, and we talk about Cloud Foundry as a technology to bridge these gaps between dev and ops. And if you look at the numbers, what we are operating at DATEV, we currently have a Cloud Foundry-based foundation as a first choice for developers, running about 10,000 applications at the moment, application instances to be precise, for about 2,000 developers. And which I'm pretty proud of is we do platform updates every time during high load situations, every day and night, and we do about 40 updates fully automatically with these platforms. The same, we operate our Kubernetes environment, which is actually also VMware-based at the moment. We have about 70 clusters deployed, 5,000 pods. And at a sum, we have, if you take this and the other one, about 4,000 virtual machines fully automatically managed to support these platforms. So, is this cloud? Well, we have hardware, we have network, we have internet access, we have the correct cloud-based software to work with. But is this still cloud? And for me, it means, It means a change from a developer to a software engineer. It actually means, what does you build it, you run it for me? You have to make clear what this actually means. Because if you have been a developer for a long time, you have a bit of fear of running an app in production. What do I have to learn? What cognitive load will come on top of I already have to know? And what if I push the wrong button in production? What happens in the middle of the night? These are fears you have to deal with. And on the other side as well, from an admin perspective, my main mission was to guarantee for a stable system. But how should I do this when there are hundreds of developers having admin permissions in the production environment? Permissions, of course, not only on their apps, but I'm the one as an admin responsible for a stable system. And I configure these systems. I don't want to have others on this system as well. These are valid points, and you have to deal with. And that's why I think cloud is not only technology. Cloud is mainly about the mindset. And if it comes to mindset, I always use this CALMS model. It's about culture, automation, lean, measurement, and sharing. Culture. The you build it, you run it culture. You as a product team running software on the platform do have to have the right mindset, and this is my product. I'm responsible for the product, for every aspect of the product itself, and I will ask our customers what they want from the product. I will implement it. I will run it on my own. Of course, you have the right management in place around that to support this mindset. That is when it comes to lean management, to allow them to do experiments, to think of failure as a way of learning, and to embrace these maybe chaotic culture. And also one big thing is the automation part. A nice quote is, if it hurts, do it more often. If you remember the former times, the dev developed a software. The way to production was really hard because you have compliance, you have several processes and manual steps to go to the production environment. What that leads to was changes are bundled. You put one change, another change. Who has read the Phoenix Project? You know what that leads to, and for those who haven't read it, I highly encourage reading it, because it's about bundling changes and deploying these changes at a big bundle to production. It usually doesn't work well. And you can't figure out what actually causes the problem. Then you have to roll back the whole stuff and start over again. But imagine what happens when you do it the other way around. When you make the way to production as easy as possible and as automated as possible. Every feature that is ready to be developed, that is developed, can go to the customer. And you can see if this feature works, if it doesn't work, if it has to be rolled back, or if it's the cause of a problem. That's why deploy early and often helps creating stable applications. Of course, you have to have measurement in place, which is also the new responsibility for this product team, to know about how to measure if my application is good, if it fails, if it meets customer requirements. Maybe, and measurement can also be measuring qualities like my sales are dropping because the checkout button has gone invisible. Could be an option. Also, this is some kind of measurement. And for me, the most important thing of this mindset, if you have mastered all the 4 pieces, is about sharing. Sharing is why I'm here, why I talk about our journey, what we do, and what we learned on the journey. Doesn't necessarily mean it works the same at your companies, but it's an idea what can be done, what can be achieved. So as I said, it's a transition from a developer to a software engineer. And that means, as a developer, you have been responsible for code, build, and test. That's always the responsibility of the developer. But what's new is you are responsible for release, deploy, and operate. And if that operate means you will be called in the middle of the night, then you have monitoring in place and you can plan your next iteration to avoid being called. So it's in your hand to get your software in a state that is so stable that you won't be called in the middle of the night. And what it also means, you are responsible for that, but you have a lot of support in place. At our company, for example, you have all these support instances in place, and you are not the last one to call. If there is a problem with your application you can't fix, no matter if it's day or night, Sunday or any other day, you still have experts on call that can help you with that. But at first, you are responsible for your application. And if you're new to that world, we also have things like office hours you can go to and ask. I have later on an example for that. If you think of that, and the technology like Cloud Foundry and Kubernetes, like platform as a service and container as a service, you have the choice as a developer what you want to do. And to simplify the choice, I talk about this model. And that's how I talk about cloud to my developers. If you do platform as a service, here is my source code, run it on the cloud for me, I do not care how. Then you only have to take responsibility for your source code. The rest is handled by the cloud. This model is mostly sufficient for developers developing applications for for end-user customers, especially if you have in mind, if you have a developer coming from delivering Windows software on DVD to clients, and then now they do the switch to a cloud-native application. Then there is so much to think about in this cloud-native landscape, and our platform as a service approach limits that to one way that works. Sure, if you are more advanced, you will reach a point in time where this PaaS approach, platform as a service approach, is too opinionated, where it limits you in your functionality. And that's when you start thinking of, okay, platform as a service, Cloud Foundry is not the choice for my application anymore. Let's switch to a more capable approach, like Kubernetes, for example. That's why we also offered container as a service. You have more choice in doing how to deploy your workload, how to handle and tackle your applications, but you have more responsibility as well. You are responsible for creating containers on your own, which is not your responsible on a platform as a service approach. And maybe you will reach a point where this Kubernetes cluster isn't sufficient for you any longer. You will have to use GPUs, for example. You will have to use specific hardware, for example. That's when you go down the stack. But the more you go down the stack, the more is your own responsibility as a product team. And the more you go up the stack, the more you could use from the cloud itself. That's why the rule of thumb at our company is go as high as possible in this stack to use as much as possible from the cloud and focus on your core business as developing a product solution for the customer. And that's what I tell about developers does also apply to admins. It's the journey from an admin to a coach, and developers use pipelines, so do admins. All the principles of deploying and delivering software do also apply to operate a cloud platform. This, for example, is a Concourse pipeline that's used to install, operate our cloud platforms. No matter if it's Kubernetes or Cloud Foundry platform, this pipeline checks every day if there's a patch available from a vendor, installs that vendor to a lab environment if that works, and if smoke tests got green, these patches promoted to the dev environment 1 day later, 2 days later to QA, and another 3 days later to the prod environment. Of course, this automation has its downsides as well, because if the patch from the vendor got withdrawn from the website 3 days later, we already have him in the dev environment. But with this automation, we are able to patch our platforms fully automated and keep them up to date. And without this automation, we won't be able to do 40 updates to our platforms a month. So think of this as platform operation is basically the same as delivering software to customers. And treating a platform as a product for us also means much more than only delivering a platform and delivering technology. It means about delivering documentation, how to work with this platform, doing open communication like our internal blogging, like issue tracking, like doing office hours. I already talked about office hours. And here you see a picture of these office hours, which we did in pre-COVID times on the coffee machine right after lunch, because that's where developers usually meet after lunch, to talk to them. And we told them, hey, get here, ask whatever you want to ask. If this is a question regarding company strategy or regarding technology, no matter what, we will find an expert for you. And if you have no idea who to ask, also come to us and we will help you. Nowadays, it's a virtual meeting, but it's still highly frequented every Friday afternoon. So we think of this as product teams. Every app developer, every application team is a product team, but the platform team itself is also a product team. And we offer the platform with API-driven self-services to be consumed by developers. And not only we operate as a platform team, providers who offer data services like booking a Postgre database for developers also offer according to this model. So when I talk about product teams, I mean the platform is our product, and we as the platform team are responsible for every aspect of the product. So we are not just responsible for deploying, but we're responsible for all the things that connect to that product. And if you go that idea even further, It leads to a different way of working. I apologize, but these are screenshots from the internal and from the external communication. They are in German, but I will talk about them. Agile. We did Agile even in pre-COVID times. We created projects around how to structure the whole company with 8,400 employees around this product-centric approach. You have the product of a platform, you have the product of database services, you have the product of storage service, network services, and whatever you think of. And this actually means a complete different way of working, because it means you have product owner not only in development department, but also in infrastructure departments, and you throw away all the company hierarchy and create a complete new one. That's what we did with the whole company. And it also allows us more independence in the teams. For example, teams can decide how they want to collaborate, how they want to work together, if they will go to the company or they will stay at home office. And we are allowed to do home office at 100% if we want to. Usually, teams at DATEV meet about 1 day a week in the office. And even the offices got fully restructured, and this one is actually a screenshot from one of our offices. Offices are more like event locations. And if you think of that, what it means to do cloud. Cloud is not only a technology. In my opinion, cloud is much more, if it's done right, it's a mindset supported by technology. And doing this at the company, which leads to the whole transformation of the company, enables us to react really quickly on customer requirements. To summarize, technology is important. It's really important. Without the technology, all this doesn't work. But it's not sufficient. Just installing Kubernetes, just installing Cloud Foundry wouldn't work. Think about processes and think about people. Take the people with you. Care about the ones that are afraid of cloud, afraid of that model, you build it, you run it. And totally think about how you would live DevOps within your company. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Jürgen. Really interesting talk. I think this is one of the talks we need to talk about more within our industry.
Yeah, no,
it's not just the IT and tech.
Yeah, I used to be a technician. I know TCP packets from source to start and can say hello to the TCP handshake or TLS handshake. But I grew some sort in these people stuff, in these more metaphysics stuff, I guess. And maybe it's good that I, as a technician I can do Spring Boot as well. But I can also talk about strategy and about the people that fit in, because I figure out people are more important than just technology.
Yeah, definitely. Fully agree. I think we do have a question on Slido.
Whoa.
Oh, we've got a few all of a sudden. Yes, okay. How do you do the financial controlling over your platform?
Actually, we do a full cost calculation. We do internal billing with the platform, like you would do in any public cloud. Well, it's internal from one cost center to another one, but we have a price for an application instance, which is €2.12 a day. And this is a full service price, including hardware, software, people, and all the stuff that's need to run and power that application. And that's what we do to manage costs of the company. You know, if it's free, it doesn't count, like a German phrase said. It has to cost some money, even to keep your things cleaned up, for example.
Cool. Okay.
Biggest fail?
Straight to the point here. Enough of sunshine.
Yeah.
Biggest fail in 2022, or throughout this journey, maybe as well.
Yeah, there have been a lot of fails throughout this journey. Technical fails. There have been no technical fails. We have the platform up and running all the time. Maybe one thing is, if you are on the journey, you can convince top-level management, and you can convince developers quite soon, because developers are always eager to play with that, and top-level management sees the benefits, but we lost the middle management on the journey at some point in time, and they didn't know what their developers are doing and what their bosses wanted for them. That's what we had to address afterwards. That was maybe one of the fails we did. Actually, it proven to be a really good strategy to work that way, like if you remember the Log4j stuff, because we patched all our applications in 1 week, 4 times every application. And we had about 1,000 product teams, about 200 product teams working in parallel on the platform. The only bottleneck was the Jenkins build pipeline.
Jenkins, there you go. Cool, all right. How do you get highly skilled engineers to be available on call? How do you prevent going through first and second line IT first?
We, as the platform team, we operate the platform team, and we are on call. So we are the last line of defense to get everything up and running, and we are all, maybe mostly we are all developers, and we know about developing applications on that platform. So it's basically, if the monitoring systems detect an application to fail, and the engineers don't know, the product teams don't know how to fix that fail, they can reach out to service desk, and service desk will call the emergency hotline of the platform team. There is no first and second line. It's simply, you have an automated monitoring, the product team is called, doesn't know how to fix it, and can call the platform team itself.
Cool. We do have enough time for a few more questions, and I enjoy that people are asking so many questions. Or we'll give you an extra few minutes for coffee. So maybe we'll take another 2, and then that's it. How long did the company restructuring take, and how did you break down the silos? Did you offer internal training to upskill colleagues?
I would say ages. It's an ongoing process. We haven't restructured the whole company. We are on the process, and we are on the journey for maybe 3 years now. And we still have a lot of work to do. But it's like you roll a stone up the hill. You do a lot of effort rolling up that stone, and then you reach the top. It won't go further, but it won't go back either. You have to push it to get it into rolling state. And maybe we are at the top where it starts rolling on its own. We do offer a lot of internal trainings. Like we do offer a 2-week training for colleagues who are totally new to cloud native, what cloud native really means. We offer an advanced training if you are familiar with cloud skills, but you have to learn about, or you want to learn about, the magic of Spring Boot and all that stuff. We offer another 2 weeks course. And we also offer a 2-day course for management training to talk about what does cloud native mean. And that does not imply technology, that also implies what I just talked about the people stuff, about the mindset behind cloud native.
Yep, I fully agree. I think it's a never-ending cycle. That's why it's an infinite sign as well.
It's a constant thing of improving. You have to embrace that you don't know what's coming next. There is no end. The end is you have to have these change permanent, and you have to learn about how to adapt to changing environments. Yeah, definitely. That's the key.
One of the other reasons why we're here, to keep learning. I'll take the last question. There are a few more questions. You're still going to be here throughout the day? Yeah, and for drinks later?
Yeah,
sure. Yeah, definitely. Okay, so the last one is, how are you providing the IT foundation underneath your platform so it meets your demands?
The foundation underneath the platform is basically, at the moment, VMware vSphere, because it's an air-gapped environment. And we took what we had, VMware, and put on top automation and management to manage a Cloud Foundry installation. We started with Cloud Foundry 5 years ago, and we added Kubernetes about 3 years ago. And that's the technical foundation for this platform. And then we added self-services, like you can book your org and space on Cloud Foundry for your own, and you can book via GitOps self-service process your own Kubernetes cluster in a very size, whatever you want to have.
Cool, awesome. I know there are a few more questions. I don't want to take too much time. If there are questions from people who are online, you can always get in contact with Jürgen via Twitter or LinkedIn. His bio details are on the website.
Maybe, may I pick the last question regarding the capacity?
Sure. Yeah, okay.
That's
Often do you run
one
out of
thing.
capacity?
Run out of capacity is always a problem. We have our foundations, our infrastructure based on 3 locations in Nuremberg, and we keep the platform we are operating at a minimum of 66% to be able to get a failure in one of these availability zones and keep all applications up and running. So we have a really early warning sign when we have to add new capacity. That's what I want to point out, because I think that's important. Capacity management and planning of capacity is always, it's a bit reading from the glass bowl, what the future will bring.
Yeah. I mean, you're increasing costs because you're not using 33% of 34%, but obviously then you're highly reliable.
Yeah,
There's
absolutely.
always a cost versus reliability issue there. Cool, okay. Thanks a lot, Jürgen. Really interesting talk. We'll see you in about 15 minutes about hardening automation. Thank you, Jürgen.